There was once a man named Zacchaeus. He was a wealthy man, but the way he made his money was by collecting taxes. Due to his profession, he was hated and was made an outsider. When Jesus came to town, Zacchaeus climbed a tree to watch him. As Jesus walked by, Jesus stopped and addressed Zacchaeus in the tree. Naturally, Zacchaeus was surprised. I mean, who looks above them? When was the last time you just looked to see what was above you? Jesus noticed Zacchaeus and invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house. Why was Zacchaeus in the tree in the first place? In Luke 19:3, we read that Zacchaeus couldn't see because he was short in stature. So he climbed a tree to see Jesus. But was that the only reason? Maybe Zacchaeus didn't feel safe in a crowd of taller people who hated him. If Zacchaeus was in a tree, he could have a clear view of Jesus in safety. But Jesus didn't just pass by. Jesus saw Zacchaeus and told him to come down from the tree. Jesus told Zacchaeus that he would be going to Zacchaeus' house for dinner. I can imagine Jesus surrounded by a crowd of people wanting to talk to this man who climbed a tree for him, but knowing that the middle of the street was not the place to have a discussion. Zacchaeus wouldn't be safe there. So Jesus decided to go to a place where Zacchaeus felt most comfortable, in Zacchaeus' home, where Zacchaeus could sit back, relax, and be himself. Jesus entered Zacchaeus' safe sanctuary and wanted to have an encounter, and it could only happen in a place where Zacchaeus found safety. Although there have been many changes in our society, it's still not safe for queers in the streets. When a queer couple walks down on the sidewalk, they often can't hold hands, walk arm in arm, or walk too close to one another. Even a light, affectionate touch on the arm is too dangerous. The wrong person could see this and engage in violence. Just the threat of an assault or degradation keeps an LGBTQ+ person vigilant and filled with apprehension. The streets, they just aren't safe for queer people. As I read the story of Zacchaeus found in Luke 19, verses 1 through 10, with a queer lens, I see an example of how Jesus might encounter an LGBTQ+ person today. Jesus would walk into a gay bar or a lesbian bar to be with the queer ones, sharing a drink, having a bite to eat, and definitely taking a turn on the dance floor. Jesus would be beside my LGBTQ+ siblings, with his arms up, head and chest sweaty from dancing, communing with these beloved human beings. He would enjoy their hospitality, just like he did with Zacchaeus. Robert E. Goss writes in his chapter of the Queer Bible Commentary that Jesus, quote, shares the hope of forgiveness with sinners. His meals were out-of-place feasts for Jews with strict agendas of holiness and purity, for they transgressed holiness and purity etiquette and were suggestive of something new, out-of-bounds relationships. Jesus gives us an example of how to meet these marginalized places where they feel the safest. Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus changed him. Zacchaeus' life was no longer the same, as Jesus granted him salvation that only he could give, in a sacred place that Zacchaeus called home. On Saturday night, November 19th, just before midnight, a gunman entered Club Q in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He shot into a crowd of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and straight people, injuring 17 and killing 5. That night, Club Q hosted a punk and alternative show followed by a dance party, which was just getting started when tragedy struck. Club Q was a place for the Colorado Springs LGBTQ+ community to be themselves and celebrate authenticity, with a dance party mixed in. Club Q was a safe sanctuary for people who are often considered outsiders, until a certain man walked in. If only a different man had gone into this sacred sanctuary for queers. A man named Jesus, who brought salvation and hope to everyone, including LGBTQ+ persons. Who knows how differently the night might have ended. Jesus at the Gay Bar, from the Backwater Sermons by J. Hume, a transgender performance poet. He's here in the midst of it, right at the center of the dance floor, robes hitched up to his knees to make it easy to spin. At some point in the evening, a boy will touch the hem of his robe and beg to be healed, beg to be anything other than this. And he will reach out his arms, sweat damp and weary from dance. He'll cup this boy's face in his hand and say, "My beautiful child, there is nothing in this heart of yours that ever needs to be healed."